Morning. Well, just about. Thought I'd have my coffee with you. I like to learn something new each day. And today's lesson, don't impulse buy anything off Facebook Marketplace, or you'll end up buying something as ridiculous as this. It makes me look like Jimmy Savile without a guitar on the front. And it's supposed to look cool. But it isn't, of course. Anyway, I thought I'd have a little think about how songs, certain songs anyway, rely more on the melody than on the lyrics. It's one of those chicken and egg things. Which comes first, the melody or the words? And once the song has been written, which is more important? Now, I think at the end, I will probably conclude, for me anyway, and this depends on the genre. For me, in general, I think they are of equal importance, but if I had to decide, I think I would probably suggest, for me, the melody is more important, but only just. I know some songwriters who say the lyrics are much more important than the melody, and certainly that can be seen with certain types of music. Country and western, for example, not really my sort of thing, but I can see why it's popular. Maybe not so much in Britain, huge in America. The lyrics seem to be more important than the melody with country and western. I wouldn't say they repeat the same melody, but it does appear that way to me. It's pretty much the same melody for most songs, most country and western songs, and just the lyrics change, although not by much. Often about whiskey, women, and not much else really. Cars, maybe. So, which is more important to... Well, I think it's different, to be honest, between the general public, as it always is, and the musicians. Music is built on repetition. Songs are built on repetition. But taken too far, it becomes irritating if you just have the same repetition of the melody over and over again. Though that said, there are numerous, thousands upon thousands of songs that are built on repetition, that just repeat all the way through, and they're hugely successful. Think of Agadoo, an appalling song, but you can't deny that it wasn't popular. It seemed to be everywhere at one point. And what was that Black Box song from the 90s? Ride on Time. No real lyrics in that, just a couple of phrases. So the music and the beat and the danceability seem to be much more important than the actual lyrics contained within the song. And I suppose when we think about songs in general, do we fall into the trap that a lot of musicians do and just simply think a song is only a traditional type song, verse, chorus, etc., middle section, whereas a lot of music consumed today doesn't fall into that stereotypical or traditional role or method of writing a song. At any point over the summer, go anywhere near a big field and you'll hear DJs pounding out the music, and that, you can't deny, isn't popular. Hugely popular. You can get 100,000 people in a field jumping up and down, dancing to the beat, virtually no lyrics, just repeated chants, etc. Now that sounds like I'm criticising it. It's not for me. I wouldn't go, but I do enjoy listening to it. You can certainly get 100,000 people in a field each day or each evening for say 3 nights on the run. You can't deny that that's not popular. So certainly in terms of which comes first, the lyrics or the melody, I think you're going to have to say with that type of music, it's the music, or perhaps the beat. Even if we go back to the mid-70s, well, towards the end of the 1970s, when punk emerged, which came first, the lyrics? Well, when I say first, I mean what's more important? Is it the lyrics or is it the music? I'm trying to remember his name. The guitarist from the Sex Pistols. Was it Steve something? Was it Steve Jones or... Can't remember. Anyway, the guitarist from the Sex Pistols said he never even listened to Johnny Rotten's lyrics during the recording. He didn't know what he was saying. He had no idea what he was singing, and only really became aware of the lyrical content of the Sex Pistols songs 6, maybe 9 months later, when it was brought to his attention. So clearly he, as a guitarist, a musician, he was only interested in the music side of it. By the same token, flipping that, the audience at the time, my brothers, for example, I think they were only really concerned with the lyrical content. By their own admission, much of punk sounded all the same. I loved it. Anyway. Oh, hello, Kat. I didn't realise you were there. We come to join in. What do you think? What's more important to you, lyrics or the music? Just keeping it to herself. Going back to, would I say more traditional? Well, certainly more celebrated songwriters. There's nobody better than Lennon and McCartney. Well, I think even within that, the band, the Beatles, then there was... Is dichotomy the right word? I've no idea. I wish I knew what it meant. Even within the Beatles, I think Lennon regarded the lyrics much more important than the music side of it. Now, I'm not saying that he disregarded the music, by no means. But he was a wordsmith, he liked puns. The lyrical content did seem more important to him than it did to McCartney, well, at least ostensibly. McCartney, although I think this is a bit of a bad rap, McCartney seemed that the music and the melody was much more important to him than the lyrics. Now, I don't really think that's all, altogether fair. Some of McCartney's mid-Beatles songs, or even early and late Beatles songs, were lyrically wonderful. She's Leaving Home, for example. And going back to Lennon, you might argue some of his lyrics were quite trite. Now, I know he didn't sing The Yellow Submarine, but as the new reissue of the remixed Revolver is about to be issued, is it November time, is it? Mid-November, I think. Apparently there are some early demos of Lennon writing Yellow Submarine. And despite the version that we know of Yellow Submarine being quite jolly and happy and typical Ringo song, and really apparently not lyrically wonderful, if you listen to the original Lennon demos, there was a melancholy to what he was singing. Harking back, is that right? Harking back to the past, his early childhood before all his traumas occurred. And when you think about it in those terms, apparently trite songs seem to take on a new lyrical meaning. We'll all know better once the reissue, the remixed version of Revolver comes out. An old drummer friend of mine, well, I've not seen him for years, although he doesn't drum now anyway. He was a great drummer at one point, but he had a bit of a medical problem with his ears that he couldn't carry on drumming. Anyway, I remember going out for a beer with him many years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. That sounds like a good lyric. I remember going out for a beer with him in Stockton Heath, and he asked me, weirdly, why, or rather, what do I prefer, the lyrics or the melody? And I pretty much had the same conversation as I am having here now with you, but with him. Now, bearing in mind he was a drummer, no drummer jokes, he said that the most important thing to him, and he was a big metal fan at the time, well, sort of, not heavy metal, Van Halen, he loved Van Halen. He said that the music was much more important to him and the rhythm, but he was a drummer. And he really paid no attention to the lyrics. later, after liking the song for a little while, though he didn't say how long, it was only then he'd start listening to the lyrics. So it's weird, isn't it, that some people are more fascinated by the music, that's how their brain works. Some people are fascinated by the lyrics. During the late 70s, 77, 78 onwards, 79 maybe, I was really into Paul Weller, The Jam, and though it seemed poles apart, Springsteen. And both Weller and Springsteen were really good lyricists. And I think I listened more to the lyrics than to the melody for those. Which is weird, seeing as I'm mainly driven by melody, I think. And even songs like Springsteen's Born in the USA, I don't think the general public initially listened to the lyrics. It was seen as a flag-waving, pro-American anthem, really. I couldn't really think of a better term. But the actual lyrical content of Born in the USA couldn't be further from flag-waving, jingoistic Americanism. It's a song about how the Americans treated the Vietnam veterans coming home and treated them like dirt, really. Back in Britain, around about 74, trying to think when the album came out, 74-ish, 73 maybe. No, it was 72. 1972, Ziggy Stardust album. And moving into Aladdin Sane in 73. David Bowie's method of writing some, not all, but writing some lyrics, was just simply by scribbling down phrases he liked, cutting them up from paper and then just juggling them around and then saying, right, that's the song. I think infamously Moon Age Daydream was written like that. And if I remember correctly, which is likely I don't, but if I remember correctly, I think he was using the same technique from Aladdin Sane into Diamond Dogs in 74. It was a cut-up technique that he was copying from somebody else. I remember watching a documentary on it at the time. Cracked actor. I can't remember who he copied the idea from. It's probably Andy Warhol or somebody like that. Concluding my coffee, I think it's the lyrical content of a song is much more important to some people, and not surprisingly, the musical content, the melody, much more important to other people. One song I can't stand, and I don't know why, but I've never liked it, and it's got this huge popularity burst in the past couple of years. And I do like the artist, Neil Diamond, but I can't stand Sweet Caroline. A friend of mine, a different drummer, he was in a band 6 years ago, something like that. And when he was forming the band with the musicians, he said, I don't really care what songs we do, but the only song I'm insisting on is Sweet Caroline, because it gets the crowd jumping up and down. Oh, we did have another song as well, Proud Mary, again for the same reason. Now, something like Sweet Caroline has been taken on by jingoistic flag wavers, and you hear it being sung in pubs, or even when the football's on, or rugby as well, and everybody's singing along, Sweet Caroline, etc. And I think they're singing along because they like the melody. It's an easy melody to sing along to. So male or female can join in because it's at that sort of range, the key, whereby it's easy for either sex to be able to sing it quite comfortably. But lyrically, I don't think they've really listened to it, or certainly they've not known the background to the story, to the song. Sweet Caroline was written about a 10-year-old girl, one of the Kennedy daughters, American president. I'm not sure which one. I think it was, don't know, can't remember. One of the Kennedy daughters anyway. And when you think about that, it's about a 10-year-old girl, and then you reread the lyrics to Sweet Caroline. Takes on a different meaning. Anyway, as I said at the beginning, I predicted my conclusion was going to be, for me, I think I prefer the melody first, but then the lyrics are a very close second. Now I'm saying this, I'm not so sure now. I mean, certainly with something like The Long and Winding Road, I love that melody, McCartney's Long and Winding Road, and the words aren't great, they're okay, but I still think that's one of the best songs ever written. And yet, even the most mundane of melodies, and there's an album full of one of Bruce Springsteen's albums, Nebraska, the album. 10 songs is it on there? 10 or 11 songs? Pretty much all the same melody, but lyrically fabulous. And I prefer Nebraska, the album, to any of his others. Anyway, it sounds like the neighbours are making a bit of a racket next door, so I'll conclude here. Now that the cat is having a little sniff at my feet, don't you think about jumping up here? You've still not told me which you prefer. Anyway, I'll disappear.